Evening everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of On the Whistle. Circumstances mean I'm going to have to walk and talk, so hopefully this comes across alright. I'm aware it's a bit windy, so I'm trying to speak as loud as I possibly can, so hopefully you'll be able to pick me up alright. Terrific win for Sunderland at Hull City. Really good away performance. You know, we spoke at Watford and Plymouth about maybe some naivety in their performances, picked off a little bit, gave up more chances than we used to seeing in this season. Today was a really strong return to form. It was a strange game in that I think Hull surprised Sunderland. Lebris admitted that to me in his post-match press conference. He said that he expected Hull to dominate possession, and that's actually not what happened. Hull sat fairly deep. They looked to play on the counter-attack, and Sunderland, the big problem really was that they had to try and get players into the box to create opportunities to break Hull down, but being wary that if they overcommitted, they would give Hull a lot of chances to break. Hull sort of sat quite deep. They packed the penalty area, which meant all the inspiration for Sunderland had to come from the wide areas. And to be fair, I think Roberts and Mundell, they came up against some strong opponents. I think especially Louis Coyle at right back against Mundell was terrific. And maybe Sunderland's two wingers just weren't quite at their best. The second half, it just completely changed. It was a lot more what we expected from Hull. They dominated possession. They looked a real threat. And actually, it's kind of ironic that in Sunderland's worst spell of the game, they actually scored their goal. Dan Neil with a brilliant tackle, and then Wilson Isidore doing the rest with it. I mean, it's an amazing goal. A strange one in that Hull were complaining because they were saying that the referee blocked their short corner, essentially. He was in the wrong position. I can understand that, and it actually happened a few times to Sunderland. Twice Dan Neil, the referee, was in his way. Having said that, it's really good from Dan Neil and Isidore. It's not as if it's an easy finish. He's got a run, probably 70 yards. Lovely little flick to get away from the defender and then a little chip finish. So that was really promising. I think what was really great from a Sunderland perspective was after that, there was still over half an hour of the game left and Sunderland barely conceded a chance. I can't remember Patterson making a save. And I think, speaking to Lebris there, he was saying that's the most exciting thing for him because it shows his team are developing. It shows that they're playing with more maturity, they're learning from their experiences and they're getting better. And I think that's what's really exciting. You still feel like there's more to come from this team. So, I'm afraid I've had to write your questions on my hand. So I'm hoping that this will spark some inspiration. So, first and foremost, Mike Smith. Hiya, Mike. Thanks for your question. He asked about the injury situation for Luton. Will there be any players back? I suspect not. I think that Ballard and Mienda will be close for that game. Lebris's view is that they might be back for Wednesday, but they'll definitely be back for Saturday. To be honest, I would be surprised if they risked either of them away at Luton. I don't think it's worth the risk. I think they'll take the view with both of them that there's players performing well in their positions and they can just sort of they can let them recover properly, maybe use them against Saturday, and then you've got a free week where they can really step up their recovery. So yeah, there's a chance Ballard and Mienda could be back on the bench, but I wouldn't expect anything more than that, and to be honest, I would be surprised if they make it. The next question is from Ethan. Thanks, Ethan, who asks about whether Sunderland will financially be able to afford the Ballard and the deals for Wilson Isidore and Chris Mepham next summer. Mepham, absolutely outstanding today. I think Hull probably had a case when Mepham looked like he handled the ball. Puerta was about to run through on goal and the referee didn't give it, and Sunderland were probably lucky to get away with that one. I think Hull had a much more legitimate complaint about that than they did the Sunderland goal. Having said that, that was Mepham's one error in what I thought was a quite outstanding performance. Obviously, Sunderland man-for-man mark, and with the pace that Hull have, you're putting a huge amount of pressure on your defenders and they have to be excellent. And I thought Mepham's positioning and his awareness was top draw. Mepham's situation is that he's out of contract at Bournemouth next summer, but they do have an option to extend for 1 year. So I'd highly doubt he'll be a free agent, because if you think about it from Bournemouth's perspective, Mepham's going to be a player who, especially if he keeps performing like he does for Sunderland, they're going to want to get a return on him, and they're going to know that there's a chance to get a return on him. So I would be surprised if they didn't trigger that extension, and then obviously you're looking at paying a fee. However, even then he would still only have 1 year on it. So I would like to think that Sunderland will be in contention if that's the case, and hopefully Mepham is enjoying life at Sunderland and wants to stay. I definitely think it's something that Sunderland financially could compete for. The caveat to that being that with the level of his performance at the moment, teams with parachute payments, big budgets, maybe even teams at the bottom of the Premier League, I think will be alert to his performances and would be interested. So I think that would potentially be the harder of the two to do. Isidore is slightly different because there's an option to buy, so there is a pre-arranged fee. I think Isidore has made clear that although it's an initial loan, he's very much come here to become a Sunderland player for the long term. So I think that Sunderland would be able to do that deal. I think Isidore would want to stay if he keeps on this form. Sunderland are definitely going to do it. So I can see that happening. As I've mentioned in a previous video as well, there is some kind of obligation whereby performance related, not sure whether it's promotion or what, but Sunderland do actually have to buy him if he meets certain criteria. So that's one to watch as well. So yeah, I would expect Sunderland to be in the mix of both of them, to be honest. But at this stage, I would say that Mepham's the more difficult one, because I think there's a good chance that other teams will come into that equation if he keeps playing as well as he does. Adam, thanks Adam for your question. He asked about whether Ballard gets in the team with Mepham playing so well. I think it gives Sunderland the luxury of giving Ballard a lot of time to recover. This ankle injury that he sort of came off the bench with but didn't seem to be able to fully get over. I think Sunderland are in a position where they can just say, look, there's no rush for you at the moment. My honest answer to this question is right now Ballard doesn't get in the team because O'Nien and Mepham are doing brilliantly. I don't think you can unsettle it. The one thing I would say is I think at some point the opportunity will be open. We've seen it before. Injury, suspension. There'll be a time when Ballard comes back into the team. Again, Trey Hume nearly took a yellow card later on. He would have been suspended for one game. In that scenario, I think Ballard comes in and Sunderland go to a back three with O'Nien on the right of it. So, yeah, to be honest, I think Mepham is now sort of first choice alongside O'Nien for the time being, but experience tells me that he'll get an opportunity to come back in pretty soon. Yeah, and a few of you asked, I put this all into one because there was lots of sort of similar questions asking about whether I think that Sunderland will use the squad more in the days ahead and whether I think there'll be much rotation for Luton. I don't think there'll be a huge amount, to be honest. I think that what we've seen from Lebris is that he really values keeping the squad consistent, keeping the team consistent. He feels that the chemistry of the team is really important and that making significant changes potentially upsets that. So the only one that you could potentially see is Alan Brown coming in. I think a lot of people have mentioned that. I think at some point this week, I could see Brown coming in to give Chris Rigg a rest. But to be honest, after a good win and a good performance and knowing how Lebris operates, I think he'll say the same again at Luton. And if he has to change it from the bench and then at Oxford, he'll do that. So there we go. That's my sort of verdict on the game. Thanks all for your questions. Thanks for watching. Hopefully the win factor's not too high. And I'll see you again in midweek.